back to the channel. So today we're going to take a look at the Transformers Studio Series 86 Core Class Wheelie. Before we take a look at the figure, let's take a look at the packaging. So of course up front here we do have a nice artwork of Wheelie with his slingshot. We do have the Studio Series text with the Transformers the movie logo on there. Of course another one here, an Autobot symbol, Studio Series, that right there, and of course Autobot Wheelie as well. Transformers on the side, a nice open window displaying the figure when it would be in the packaging. An artwork shot of Wheelie smiling on the side, and of course he has a Core Class figure, and two product shots on the back, and he transforms in 12 steps. And if you move to the side here, another nice artwork shot of Wheelie with his slingshot, and that is pretty much it for the packaging. Let's now get into the review. Wheelie in his robot mode. Let's take a look at the details. Starting at the very top with that head sculpt, some really nice silver for the face, some blue for the eyes, and some gray there as well. Of course, getting down to the arm, mostly done in that nice orange with some silver for the hand. If you actually do move into the interior of the hand, there's actually the wheel there done in gray. If you do go to the chest, there that same nice salmon pink for the chest with the red Autobot symbol looking very good. Simple and classic. Of course, same detail repeated on the other arm. Some nice gray for the knee pads and feet, looking very good, with some orange for the rest of it. And if you do go to the back, there's some nice really dark blue for the windscreen. And unfortunately, this is a lot of people's complaint, there's this whole dome section, which unfortunately you really cannot move or get out of the way. You can slightly move it out, but that's really it. You can't reposition it pretty much at all. But I also do have to compliment Wheelie, because the head is fully filled in. Unfortunately, the Kingdom / Legacy Hot Rod, his head was pretty much completely hollow, so I will give a compliment. I'll throw Wheelie a bone for that, but I do wish you could move that dome piece just a little bit to have, you know, some more space for the legs. So overall, detail-wise, I think they did a pretty good job. Definitely very accurate to the G1 show and movie. Let's now get down to articulation. So there is actually a hinge and a ball joint at the arms, so you can actually hinge this forward and back if you want to. That's really part of transformation, but there is also a ball joint, so you can move all the way around, out, and in. There's a ball joint at the elbow, so you can do an elbow bend, and a swivel. Unfortunately, no wrist swivel, but that's actually pretty common with a Core Class figure. There is no waist swivel. The head can move forward and back, and of course left to right. The legs can kick that far forward, of course that far out. There is a knee bend and a slight swivel at the thigh, and there is a slight swivel at the knee, and unfortunately it really cannot kick that far back because of this whole dome piece. And there is no ankle pivots. And that's pretty much it for articulation. Let me just straighten this figure up a little bit. And let's now get down to the accessories. So he does come with one, which I really think this figure should have come with two. So it does come with the slingshot as seen on the packaging, but unfortunately there is really no ammo. Of course, even if they did include ammo, I know this would not actually fire. I just think it would help the aesthetic and make it more of a realistic, you know, playable thing with Wheelie, because I think there actually was sort of some Energon spike ball thing that he used in the movie. I think he shot at a Grimlock when they first met and like hurt his nose. So I think it would have been nice maybe if they made like a little rubberized little rubber piece for him to hold in his hand so it looked like he's about to shoot it. You know, kind of made of the same material that they use for the blaster pieces. I think they could have easily done that, but as it is, it's a cool little slingshot. Just, you know, he has nothing to shoot it with. It just would help, of course, recreate some cool scenes and poses. But again, of course, I know it wouldn't fire. It just would help, you know, to pose around and create some cool stop motions. But overall, pretty well sculpted, just done in great plastic. But yeah, I think it definitely does resemble a slingshot, just unfortunately no actual ammo to have it firing, or use your imagination, of course, and just fire yourself. But overall, a pretty cool accessory. I think it could have come with two. Maybe I'm expecting too much. It's just most Core Classes recently have at least come with two accessories. But detail-wise, looking pretty good. Articulation, I wouldn't say is the greatest. Let's now get down to some comparisons. So here he is with his Core Class mate Ratchets, and I think overall these two figures are pretty good, but I do have to say the articulation is sorely lacking in the Core Class department. No, I'm not typically very picky with the Core Classes. I do like both these figures. It's just with the Legacy line, like Legacy Bombburst and Iguanus, they have really good articulation. They have a waist swivel, they have ankle pivots. Of course, most Core Classes do not have a wrist swivel. That's pretty common, but I have to say both of them should probably have a waist swivel. You can sort of make one work with Ratchet, but you kind of have to de-transform him, so I'm just talking a natural, simple one. Unfortunately, both of these do not have it, or an ankle pivot, which I think is a big letdown. Do I like these figures? Yes, but I think the articulation with the Legacy and Kingdom ones are much better than both of these two. So I do hope the upcoming Studio Series Rumble and Frenzy. I heard those are coming out pretty soon. I do hope those are better in the articulation department. But the details, definitely very accurate to their G1 representations. And as you can see, of course, Ratchet comes with 2 accessories. I think most core classes come with 2 accessories, and unfortunately Wheelie is just stuck with 1, so that is kind of unfortunate. But again, I'm not typically that picky with core classes. They only cost about $10, so honestly, I buy them either way because they're pretty fun to mess with, no matter if they're, good or so-so or great. But overall, that's pretty much it for this comparison. Let's now move into one quick legacy comparison. Here it is with my most recently reviewed core class figure, Bombbursts. So, as you can see, of course, much bigger and bulkier, much more accessories, and I have to mention again, he has much better articulation than Wheelie. Waist swivel, not wrist swivel, ankle pivots, all of that, so I think they could have done a little bit better there, but that is just a minor nitpick. And that's pretty much it for the comparisons. Let's now get down to transformation into the vehicle mode. Get down to transformation into the vehicle mode, so what you're going to want to do is get the whole chest section and just untab this. You can then open this panel on the back, and then the head will just fold in there, and then of course you can close that right up. Now we can go down to the legs, and if you're wondering how the chest was tabbed in, there's 2 tabs there and 2 slots, and that's how that was tabbed in. You can then fold the feet down, and then you can get the swivel at the knee, and then these will just tab together. There's a tab on this leg and a slot on the other, and it can be a little bit fiddly sometimes. There we go. And then what you're going to want to do is, of course, there is 2 slots and those 2 tabs from earlier, and then this is just going to slide all into place. Just like that. Just give everything a good squeeze, which some things can get untabbed sometimes. You just gotta squeeze everything together. There we go. And then what you're going to do is use the hinge that we showed in the articulation segment. Just hinge this back, and there is a slot on the inside of the arm, and then there is a tab on this whole dome section, and you're just going to want to tab that into place. And as for the last section, unfortunately, sometimes the arms will not tap, and I do apologize about that. And now for the last thing, what you're going to want to do is get the slingshot. There is a port on the very bottom, and there is, of course, the peg from the handle from the slingshot. You're just going to plug that into place, and there we have Wheelie in his vehicle mode. Let's take a look at the details. Starting at the right front, of course, we have some nice salmon pink there for the front of the vehicle, with some nice orange on the sides, and some gray for the wheels. Unfortunately, the front 2 are pinned, which I really don't think that looks very good. I would rather them all be like this. We do have some nice blue for the windscreen there, with some more orange on this back little cone section, which looks pretty good, with actually some layering. And unfortunately, the hands do kind of just jut out the back, which I don't think looks very good in the silver, but if you do have it at the front view, you can barely even tell. Also, the accessory storage is pretty good, but unfortunately, kind of like the arms, it does not stay tabbed in very well. If it was a better secure connection, I would like it more, but there's actually been several times where I'll transform and pick it up, and it will just pop right out. But the arms, that's another case. Unfortunately, there's always a gap there. You can see they're supposed to tab in, but they typically will just kind of pop out over time. But detail-wise, I think they did a pretty good job. Rolls very well, a pretty cute little car that I do like messing around with. Let's now get into one quick core class comparison. So here he is with core class 86 Ratchet. So between the 2, I think they did do a better job on Ratchet. Of course, the details I think are just better, and the tolerances are much better. Everything stays tabbed in a lot better. But overall, of course, with the accessory storage, I think they did do a better job with Wheelie, because they really just do kind of tab the guns on the side of the car, which I think is a bit lazy. But that being said, of course, he does come with more, but I actually really do like the slingshot stored on the bottom. That's actually a pretty clever option for storage, because, it's such a weird, kind of odd-shaped accessory. You would wonder, where could you put that? But unfortunately, it doesn't always stay whenever picking it up. So it's kind of a mixed bag between the 2. I really do hope the next Studio Series core class figures are better. Let me know of the Bumblebee movie and the other ones, because I've not gotten that many. These are the only 2 Studio Series ones I've gotten. Let me know if those are better, because I do wonder, is that like this for all of them? Are they all like, have some weird tolerance issues? Are they all not that very articulated? I do hope that is not the case for the future ones that I do want to get. But overall, I do recommend them. You just have to be aware, of course, they are much cheaper figures, so they're not going to be perfect. There's going to be a few things, like some areas are loose, some areas because they're too tight, it could be like that with most of them. But I think detail-wise, they definitely did do a good job just leaving on my shelf. But if you do get further into transforming it and messing around with it, there could be a few things that you notice. But overall, two pretty cool looking Studio Series core class figures that I highly recommend. Let's now get down to the final thoughts for this Transformers Studio Series 86 core class Wheelie. I think overall this figure is just okay. Starting in the robot mode, of course, so articulation. Unfortunately, there is no waist swivel or ankle pivots, and of course wrist swivel, that's really typically not that common in the core class scale, but I just have to mention that if you get any of the other Legacy core class figures or the Kingdom ones, they typically will have either a waist swivel or ankle pivot, or sometimes even both. So I think it's kind of odd that this figure has neither. Also, Ratchet, he has neither. He does sort of have a waist swivel, but you sort of have to de-transform him, so just a natural one without changing anything. Neither of them really have that, which I think is a bit unfortunate. But good details, definitely resembles the classic G1 character from the Transformers the movie and, of course, the TV show. I think did a pretty good job with that. Very simple in design. I actually do quite like the pink, and the blue on the back actually looks pretty good. But unfortunately, speaking of the back, this whole section here really just kind of juts out the back where the legs are. I think that doesn't look very good, and it actually does limit articulation as well. You can barely even kick the leg back at all because you cannot even move that panel. Accessory-wise, I do actually quite like the slingshot, but unfortunately there really is no, like, ammo, of course. I know if they included a little, like, ammo ball or whatever, because he shoots kind of like a little energon ball at Grimlock in one of the scenes in the movie, and of course he uses it several times in the show, which is always nice, but I know it wouldn't shoot in this situation. I think it would just be nice to be able to recreate that scene, you know, put him in some cool poses with one hand holding the slingshot and one hand holding the ammo, so of course you can have that cool effect of him looking like he's about to shoot it. And there's no ammo with this, which I think is kind of unfortunate. I think they could have easily just gotten maybe some of that like rubber material that they use to make the blaster pieces and just give that to him, and I think that definitely would have worked and looked good. I think maybe my possible theory is why they didn't include that is because they were worrying maybe either it would be too small and you could lose it, or they don't know how to store it in the alt mode, which honestly I would take ammo and not being able to store it in the vehicle mode over no ammo at all. That is just my personal opinion. But overall, a pretty good robot mode. Getting down to transformation very, very simply. You really just kind of fold everything together. Getting down to the vehicle mode, unfortunately, there is several problems with the vehicle mode too. The hands kind of just jut up the back, which from the front view you can barely tell. Really just, I would say, the top view, you can tell. The side view, you can barely even tell it's the hands. It just kind of looks like maybe the spoilers or like the, you know, gas intake section of the car, you know, so you can kind of use your imagination to make it a little bit better, but from the top view you can definitely tell they're the hands sticking out, which I think they could have probably put maybe a cover or a panel for that section. I think that would have been nice. Who knows? But the other problem with this is, unfortunately, there's typically gaps where these sections are. I did want to show this closer, that these arms are supposed to tab into this piece right here, but unfortunately, on my copy, they tend to just kind of untab all the time, which I am typically not that picky with a core class size, because they are just like $10 to $12, so I am not that picky. I think they're very fun, enjoyable figures just to mess around with, even if they do have problems, but I think they probably could have done better, especially where the articulation is. I think that's one area they could have improved. I think they might have just been a little bit cheap. As for the tolerances, that is kind of just a thing that you have to deal with as a collector. It's, you know, there could be 5 copies like mine, or there could be, you know, some other copies with really good tolerances, like the arms always tab in, the accessory never falls out, but, you know, who really knows? That being said, getting into the accessory storage, I do actually really like how they store the accessory. It's actually on the bottom of the vehicle, which I actually think is pretty clever, because going into this figure, I had really not watched that many reviews for it, and I was wondering, how are you going to store a slingshot in a vehicle mode? I thought that was so crazy. How could you do that? And it actually stores pretty well. I think it actually looks pretty good. Very concealed. You can barely even tell it's there. But unfortunately, on my copy, again, it's actually pretty loose. It doesn't always untab, but sometimes when I pick up this figure in the alt mode, the accessory will untab, which I do think is a problem, because that piece is very small. And I think you could easily lose that if you're, you know, in a busy area with, you know, tons of stuff stuff on the floor, so I would be cautious of that. I do recommend this figure, but I do want you to be aware there is some problems. Of course, this could just be a one copy thing, or it could be with all of them, who knows. Of course, the hand sticking out the back, that's going to be for everyone, but like the tolerances of the hands not tabbing in and the accessory popping off, that could be just my copy, or it could be everyone's copy. Let me know how yours is in the comment section down below. Hope you enjoyed this review, of course. I am almost at 600 subscribers, so if you haven't subscribed, give it a chance. Maybe you could subscribe. That would really help me out. I'm so thankful for all the support recently. It's meant a lot. There's been so much support, so many people commenting and giving me all the support. It's amazing. Thank you so much. Almost at 600. And of course, whenever we reach 600 subscribers, I will make sure to do a 600 subscriber special. I'm not 100% sure what it's going to be right now. It could be a stop motion, or maybe a review, or live stream. Who knows? Let me know what you would want the 600 subscriber to be. I actually really don't have anything to unbox right now, so the live stream is looking like a no, but it could be maybe a review or stop motion possibly. Let me know what you would want in the comment section down below. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.